We got to take this opportunity to realize that the self-destruction, going back to what ladies played earlier, this self-destruction that we're talking about here, in some instances, may be actually self-imposed. And I'm not telling you that there isn't evil in the world. I'm not telling you that people ain't out here trying to do what's dirty. I ain't telling you that. What I'm telling you that is when I look here, like I can say right now, if everybody could just do me one favor, just for 30 seconds, please do me humanly for 30 seconds. I need everybody, if you can, turn on your cameras and go to the gallery view. I need you to turn on your cameras and go to the gallery view. And what I want you to see is what I see. What I see by way of Black excellence. I want you all to see what it is that young people need to see every single day. You know, Allison, as you talk about your kids and how your kids are able to come and talk to you about how they're feeling, guess what? There's one of those kids who realize that you're saving their life every day that you come to work. Every time you take a moment to talk to them, I'm just asking you, just look in the gallery view, just look at the people that are in this room. This isn't the people that our young people don't want to aspire to be. They want to be like us. So when you hear, Dame and Dame in particular, who says the importance of us and our image as school leaders and how we have to be able to address and to touch the young people by sometimes putting on a dope hoodie, a dope fitted hat. Is sometimes we gotta realize that they can't be what they can't see. It's important for us to give them the imagery that we want them to be. It's important that we show them that. We give them that as an option. So, Allison, I see and I hear your passion, and I know exactly where you're going. And I'm saying, in terms of some of the actionable steps that I want to see, is that we got to start showing ourselves in a better light. It can't be about everything is not turned into a meme. Everything isn't about jokes. Everything isn't about entertainment. Something is just about an image of what I can be. What can I grow up to be? And I know for a fact, as a principal, and the things that we do and the way we look, people are looking for us to make the change that we were talking about. Armani?
Dennis, can I say something real quick?
Sorry, Sakina, but Armani, a couple of people have their hands raised, so Armani.
Okay.
Hold that thought though, Kina.
Yes. Let's raise your hands, Sakina, so that way I won't miss you. Armani?
Yes, thank you, family, and thank you again. I'll be brief. I had a piece of information I wanted to share. It's a book. Again, my name is Armani Scott. I'm the attorney for OSG. I'm also a filmmaker and producer. This 2 hours every Thursday is probably one of the best times of my week to come in and to fellowship with you all and to support you all and the things that Dennis is doing with you all. There's a book. We have taken a city. Racial Massacre and Coup of Wilmington, 1898. And I think when we talk about disinformation, we talk about, as Principal April was speaking about earlier, I believe another Principal Asia Johnson speaking about this as well, the disinformation. And I think there are, when we talk about this is not America, in 1898, Wilmington, North Carolina, okay, there was a duly elected multiracial coalition running Wilmington, North Carolina, where African Americans were the treasurer of that city in 1898, had a tremendous, the mayor of the town was white, where Mayor of Wilmington at the time was white, but the reason he was mayor was because he had a coalition government with African Americans in that city. People talk about Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they don't know what happened. Only now they're finding out about it. I think some of these historical events, these touchstones, as Dennis was talking about, African American people, when we talk about the narrative of who we are, we know we're great. We talk about, Tulsa, Oklahoma, we had Black Wall Street. We had like 100 Black Wall Streets in this country. Manhattan Beach in California, right, was owned by African American people, right? You know how much that land is worth right now? So these stories have been suppressed from our children for a particular reason, so that the narrative of the nigger can proliferate, so that the narrative of Black people can't do business together. Black people aren't good at math and science. All of these false narratives proliferate because our children don't know the history of this country. When we all say, oh yeah, this is America, we know this America. It's one thing to have an experience with a police officer, or 2, or 10. It's something totally different to be able to go back to the 3/5 compromise and be able to trace the decisions and the policies and the history on one track, but also in that same tracing, see the brilliance of African American people. When do we think about 1898 and think that in 1898, Black people in this country were really doing the thing? Big. We're running a major city on the East Coast. Is that a part of the narrative when we think about ourselves on a visceral level? And that's why I think when we talk about that narrative and changing it, I think about James Baldwin as well. He said, I'm not your nigger, right? Who created the nigger? What is this thing called a nigger, right? And I think yesterday, finally, the real niggers stood up. And it's about not just saying, oh, that's the nigger over there. It's about, again, as Principal Dennis says, it's because just pointing the finger at someone else doesn't help us. We are empowering our children. And part of that, again, if we're going to go back and excavate this history, we're going to excavate, we're going to talk about George Washington Carver and Ida B. Wells and Marcus Garvey. And we're going to put our people in the proper context. As the brother just said earlier as well, what is an American? Jimi Hendrix is American. It's all American, right? And I think that narrative that if this country is to be, it's not going to be without us. If this country is going to compete with China over the next 100 years, it don't got a chance in Hades without us. And it's one thing for us to know it. It's another thing for our children to know it, because then we will show it to those. Because then those who don't want to acknowledge it, move, get out the way, get out the way. So God bless you all. It's H. Leon Prather. We have taken the city, the Wilmington Race Massacre and Coup 1898 to central reading. I would suggest everyone get the book. It was written by a brother, PhD. I think he taught at Tennessee State University as well. So you're supporting an HBCU as well. It was written in 1984, I believe. And again, we salute all of you in the work that you do.
Amani, thank you so much. And just to, once again, it's very, very important for us to recognize that self-image is a product of learning. And that what our children and our young people believe in themselves has a lot to do with what they're being taught, what they're seeing, what they're ingesting every day by way of media. And so we gotta understand, it didn't happen by accident. It's not happening by accident that we're looking at our young people and having those young people be paraded across the news in shackles because of indictments and things like that. That's not something that we can look at and think that happens coincidentally. Because whatever is ingrained and embedded in your head, you're gonna think that's normal. You're gonna think it's normal. And I give people a prime example. As a young man growing up, a Black man growing up, do you know, and I can tell you as an educated Black man, I actually thought that my rites of passage came when I was older and I got arrested for basically people telling me that something was wrong with my license. They pulled me over in downtown Manhattan on a Friday night, Martin Luther King weekend. On Martin Luther King weekend, on a Friday, coming back from dinner with my wife. On a Friday, they pulled me over. And you know what happened from that point forward? Just because they could or because they thought they could, I went to the precinct. From the precinct, they saw me and they said, wow, we didn't know, basically you're a principal and this and that. I went right to the precinct. And then from the precinct, guess where I went? Central Bookings. And where did I spend the rest of the weekend? When did I spend the rest of the weekend? Right in Central Bookings, downtown. in the tombs. The reason why I'm bringing that up is because for some ridiculous reason, I thought at that moment, and I was an adult, as a black man, I felt that now I can tell the real story of what black men go through in this country. I thought that it was a rites of passage for me. And I'm only telling y'all the truth. There's something about a black man telling another black man I done did time that makes somebody else aspire to do the same thing. So do you think for a minute that when they show us on TV going to jail, that that's not being ingrained in somebody's head? Not for what not to do, but for what it is as the norm. So I'm asking you all to understand that whatever is out there by way of imagery, we have to change that. Because as I said, as a grown-ass man, I honestly felt that it was the rites of passage for me that I actually went and spent some time in a jail cell.
Malik, you up? You're on mute, brother.
Okay. Hi, good evening. First I want to say hello to my good friend, Allison Farrington. Those of you who don't know, I probably wouldn't even have a doctorate if it wasn't for Allison. She was my classmate. She's the one that kept me focused. She's the one that made sure I got my papers written, and all those things. And I'm eternally grateful. So, welcome, Allison, and hello. I'm feeling so many different emotions. Number one, and again, I also want to resonate with Dennis said, those who control the images control the minds of our babies, right? But we got to look at history, right? But before I get to that, number one, I'm angry, right? And so all of us are human beings. We have nervous systems. Our nervous system indicates to us when there's pain, when there's discomfort, things of that nature, so that you can react. And I'm very angry. And I think we all should be very angry, and then allow that anger to call us to action, because there's so much work to be done in this country. There's been so many things said already, so I want to touch on a couple of things. Number one, I'm always going to take it back to history. As a people, as a black people, number one, we have to understand that it's not okay to call ourselves minorities. We are not minorities, we're a global majority. And the use of the term minority is imposed upon us so that we can look at ourselves as if we are less than others. So we need to stop using that word. That's a recommendation. You can do what you want with it. Number two, we weren't just brought here during the Atlantic slave trade. We as a people have a true claim to this land, because as African people, we had a presence in the Americas prior to Columbus. So you gotta start there, because without context and without understanding how much of a true claim we have to this land, we'll continue to act as if we probably don't belong here. We were here before we were brought here. Before we were brought here in shackles, many of us came here not in shackles. We came on ships as navigators, as engineers, as explorers, right? But you got to know your history. Because if you don't know your history, you can't teach the children their history. And then they'll always think that they're coming from a place of lesser than, right? And so we got to, number one, ensure that history is being taught in our schools. Most of us, and I can only speak for New York, because New York has a particular school system. If you're a principal in New York, you don't have to wait for somebody to tell you that you can teach your children history in the schools. And if you're not doing it, you're not doing it to the detriment of the children that you claim to serve. So if you're not doing it, do it. Or else I don't even want to talk to you personally, because you're not leading. You're an administrator, right? Because again, those who control the images control the minds. And so in the same way that we seek to feed children with healthy food, if you don't feed them with healthy images so that they can go forth with healthy spirits, then again, you're doing them a disservice, and you probably should work somewhere for us. A couple other things. When we look at what happened yesterday, I haven't heard any mention yet. Did you see the news that was on the Capitol steps? So this wasn't about misinformation. This wasn't about, a vote or a lie that someone had lost an election. That news tells you what this was really about. And if you don't know, you better get to knowing. They weren't there because they lost an election. That news tells you why they were there. We're at war. There's an enemy. And they are clear on who they want to exterminate. There was a noose on the Capitol steps. Did you see it? Did you acknowledge it? Did you allow your psyche to let that sink in? So that, because as important as it is for us to know ourselves, you got to know your enemy, or else you won't know how to proceed. And when I say enemy, I'm not talking about a race or a skin color. I'm talking about a set of values that happen to be mostly perpetrated by a particular race. And so again, be clear about what this is and what this isn't, or else you won't know how to proceed, and then you'll continue to do a disservice to the people, to the children, to the communities that you claim to serve. So let's call it what it is. It wasn't about someone losing an election. These people want to see us exterminated. They want to see us not here in a country that is rightfully ours and our Native American and indigenous brothers and sisters' land. We have a claim to this land. There is no America without the America that we built. That there's no Capitol building. If you look at Washington, D.C., if you study history, you'll know Washington, D.C. was, first of all, it was designed off the template of ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt. When the French architect who was in charge of designing Washington, D.C. took the plans and left, and D.C. wasn't completely built. It was a black man, Benjamin Banneker, if I remember correctly, who tapped into his African consciousness and was able to allow the capital to proceed. The Washington Monument is not the Washington Monument. It's an African symbol of rebirth and regeneration. So if you don't know your history, get to learning your history, because if you don't know it, you certainly can't teach our children. And if you can't teach our children, they can't be grounded in who they need to be so that they can be politically strong, economically strong, culturally strong, spiritually strong, so forth and so on. So we have work to do. And yes, we have suits and ties and degrees, but this is a battlefield and we are at war. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Small. Again, let's start with what you initially said. Let's stop calling ourselves things that we're not. We're not minorities. We're not the beneath. We're above. Not the tail, we're the head. We got to be willing to express to our kids as much as possible about exactly who they are. I think before Dr. Riley, before we
Hey, how y'all doing? I was actually jumping off to go talk to the congressman and do a Zoom with him. I was asking if he wanted to jump on this one. I'm trying to see if he could, if y'all wanted to talk to him, because he was actually there and, sending me the play-by-play while he was, in the building. But what I did want to say is this. I tend to always try to look at the positive in everything. I always try to find the light in the dark. What I saw was a new world. A world where it's not us that are rioting and it's not us that are looking crazy to the rest of the world. The narrative is different right now. To me, that was exposure. It was proof of concept. We've been saying that they don't treat, there's this entitlement where the police ain't going to treat someone white the same way they're going to treat someone black. It was showcased. It was like when Martin Luther King was like, stand down and take the abuse just so they could see it. I almost felt like they let their guards down so they could actually see what the bad part of America looks like, how they dress, their mentality, and what they're beefing about. They're beefing because their president didn't win. They're not beefing because they've been enslaved. They're not beefing because of systemic racism. They're not beefing over any of the things that we're really beefing about. And look how they acted. And look how surprised people were to get pepper sprayed and that they were even touched. They just thought they could walk in and play. It was crazy to me that I was like, they're going to shut the whole world down because they don't want white people to look like this. But right now, there's going to be a lot of white guilt. Right now, any real American that was supporting Trump got to say they wasn't supporting Trump because that means they supporting that. There's a lot of accountability that's about to happen. Your man is cooked. He can't do nothing. So to me, I was like, oh, the new niggas, white niggas. I'm the new afraid of them. My kid, look at those white people. They bugging. I might not want them in the neighborhood. And I'm not saying that that's the best thing in the world, but it's a different narrative. And I love what y'all saying about narrative because that's why I have a television network. It is about the patterns that they put in front of us all day long. They never showcase an OSG, a black principal, a black congressman. I'm watching the news. I'm watching who they interview, and I'm like, why didn't I interview the congressman? That's why I thought it was important to do a Zoom with him today because he really fighting for us. They was in there with no security. They walk around in there. Only a couple of them have security. So he was in the room by himself, like, yo, I'm in here. I was like, yo, you want me to send somebody? Like, what should I do? But at the end of the day, it was like the end of a bad day. It was proof of concept out really how bad this man is. And also, I was watching Republicans fight Republicans. I'm used to seeing black people fight black people. So it was me being able to look at them the way they be looking at us. I'm like, damn, they look bad. I'm like, that's how they be trying to make us look. But this is how they look right now. So I would say capitalize off of the moment. Be strong. Like before shit was going on, they wouldn't be talking about this. People, no one can say that this dude is all right because people got killed. Everybody's jumping ship on this man. So he's out of here. But a lot of things got exposed. In therapy, you have to see the dark and feel it to get to the light. This is what I call therapy. The world had to see something like that. Number one, how white people act when they feel entitled, when they don't get their way, when they're from a certain class, a certain degree of entitlement. Because no matter what kind of riot, we ain't never ran up in no state building. That's one thing nobody's doing that. Because we'll be like, we gonna get killed. They were walking in there for fun. They didn't even think they knew they wasn't gonna get hit. They were shocked. But it needed to be showcased, that entitlement. It needed to be shown. It needed to be exposed. You can't be like, some people act like they like Trump for certain reasons and don't. Bottom line is once a dude does that, if you still like him, then I know who you are. So you saw when they went back in the Senate at, 1 a.m, the other senators, like Republican senators, most of them was like, I'm not signing on to that no more. It's no longer cool to be anywhere near that guy. He's whack juice. Ding dong, the witch is dead. And also look at this. We got the White House. We got the Senate. We got Congress. He gave it to us. Send him a thank you note. To me, it was a bad day, but unless you turn a bad day into a good day, unless you learn from it, unless you take advantage of it, it should not make you scared. It should not make you so mad. It should inspire you to fight and be happy about it and understand what the right fight is. And yes, visually, the patterns they need to see is us doing what we're doing, not contriving the stuff that we're doing when the cameras aren't on. Because when the cameras are on, we start fronting. The stuff that we doing is so cool that you don't even have to contrive it. That's why I go live. I'm proud of it. I'm like, I want everybody to see what I'm doing when they don't think, when they not really looking. I'll put it on.
Hey, Dane.
And I'm good.
The congressman just came.
Oh, nice. Yes.
Came in, so.
Yes. So
hold on. So before we get to Andre Carson, Congressman, just give me a few more minutes. I just got a couple of principals had their hand up real quick.
Linda, I know Linda had her hands up, but I don't see her hands up anymore. So Linda, if you're still in the room, you can share if you want.
Hi guys. I just
let me start off by saying thank you to Anisha and Pia Davis for inviting me on here. I spoke to them on Clubhouse and they invited me in, so thank you so much. I'm a teacher. I teach in Queens in New York, and I teach middle school. And so today was kind of difficult speaking to the younger kid. And we started just talking about, everything that went on. And one of the kids asked me a question that I thought it just kind of shifted the whole conversation. She said, Miss P, do those people who did that, do they think they were doing the right thing? And I said, you know what? Some of them actually did. Some of them did think they were doing the right thing. And then we shifted the conversation to what are the factors that contribute to the way we see the world, right? I really hope that the conversation that we're having here doesn't end here, because I don't want us to put it past our kids that they can have these conversations. They are capable. I mean, I had to use an analogy. I used sunglasses, right? And said, if I have sunglasses on, these are the lenses through which I look at and see the world. And I asked them, what are the things that you see every day, that you're taking in every day, that contribute to your sunglasses, contribute to how you see the world? And the things that they were saying to me, on Snap, I saw a lot of this. When my parents call me down to watch the news, I said, even the news station that you're watching can shape the way you perceive things, not just ourselves, but other people, right? So that's really all I wanted to say. I found it so interesting that they had so much to say. I was honest with them, and I told them, even me speaking to you now is shaping the way you see the world. So just be mindful of the platforms that you use and that you allow yourself to watch. That is gonna, shape your mind as you grow older in this world and become leaders of tomorrow. So that's it.
Thank you so much for that. And like I said, it's important that we start taking responsibility for the images that we put before our young people. Yeah, Dr. Action.
Yes. So, Sakina, did Sakina leave a reading? I know she was saying she was going to go. She stepped out. Okay. So, Anisha, Jacko, you up?
Hold on. Was Arabelle?
Wait,
I know.
Going in order that they raised their hand.
Okay.
Hey, Dennis, because the congressman, I got to jump off. So if you want to just see one real quick so we can go, see what we got to do?
And Andre Carson, Senator Carson.
Congressman.
What's up, brother?
Congressman.
What's up, man? Listen, I know I got to jump off, and I apologize to anybody that had their hand up. But I know Congressman doesn't have much time, but I wanted him to talk a little bit about that experience yesterday and what that was about, and just tell us a little bit about that experience yesterday.
No, thank you, Dr. Dennis, and thank you, Dame. And I apologize to anybody who had their hand up. For us, I was at work earlier, and then I was on a Zoom with the Black Caucus, and some of us, some were at their homes, some of us were on campus, and I got a notification from a Capitol Police officer who said, "Stay in your office." And I was in the office for like 9 hours. I was texting Dame and other people, and I sent Dame a video the day before when there was a smaller protest.
Yep.
Before it became what it became. And I had a sense that something was brewing because you just felt the energy there. And I think that there were a lot of people who were shocked. And Congress has a lot of older people. There were some, older people, some seniors who are still nervous about it. But many of us are calling for an investigation into Capitol Police. The Sergeant at Arms has already submitted his resignation, rightly so. We want an investigation of Capitol Police. The FBI is involved. We want all agencies of jurisdiction to conduct an investigation, to pull the security footage, because there are too many empathizers and sympathizers amongst the ranks of not only Capitol Police, but quite frankly, the FBI, Homeland Security, and other agencies, because if they were doing the work they were supposed to do, the same intelligence they had on Black Lives Matters, the same undercover officers and agents that they had in Black movements as recent as this year, why don't you hear any intelligence reports about white movements? So one of the things that I'm going to do as soon as we're reinstated on the Intelligence Committee, because I'm the chair of a subcommittee on counterterrorism, is to call a hearing with the FBI and other agencies, because I want to know if there's an ongoing investigation with the Proud Boys, the neo-Nazis, and the white supremacists, and how many undercover officers do they have in these organizations that can give us information, because too many people should have known ahead of time the amount of people who would attempt and successfully invade Capitol Hill. So that tells me that there's some Capitol Police officers who are working in concert with these insurgents and these insurrectionists. And so to have these educators on the phone, because I always say it starts in the home, it's solidified through our educators, and oftentimes it's codified through religion. But the OSG network, I think you all are doing the real work, because a lot of this is unearthing the psychology of privilege, a psychology that says this country you believe is so much yours, stolen country, that you could go into the halls of Congress and threaten lives and step up to the speaker's chair and act like you run something. And to even more so have a president who was stirring the pot. We're seeing a resignation come from Betsy DeVos, who is not our friend, 2 weeks before the president is gone. That's not leadership, that's cowardice. She's thinking she's gonna have enough cover for her next endeavor to say, you know what, I couldn't take it anymore. I just had to leave. Hell, you should have left 2 years ago. And now we're seeing Facebook and other social media platforms who are banning Donald Trump. And these are the very platforms who are responsible for his ascent in the first damn place. Mm-hmm. And so I think the election in Georgia has shown us our leverage when we work with Black intelligence, Black educators, Black CEOs and entrepreneurs and moguls like Game and others to leverage our voting bloc. Georgia has shown us the reason why a poll tax was created for Black people in the first place. Because during Reconstruction, after we were freed, we were voting all over the place, and we had more Black senators even than today. What can happen in the next few years if we leverage our voting bloc in a meaningful way? Not only will we have a Black president, but we're going to have more Black governors, Black senators, and hopefully we can have Black secretaries of education that will do right in terms of equity and the allotment of resources to our school districts and to our principals. So thank you all for letting me come through. Thank you, Dane. Thank you, Brother Dennis. OSG. I still got to get my OSG gear. I see Brother Elliott rocking it. I'm getting a little jealous, but y'all got to connect me now. Come on, man. Put your boy on.
We got you, Congressman. And again, before you leave, I just want to
be safe, Congressman. Be safe, brother. Be safe.
Appreciate that.
Reiterate the importance of the Black image. And we're looking at you, and we see a Black congressman who is unapologetic about who he is and who he serves.
He's Muslim too. He's Muslim.
I have to be able to say, the most important thing is for young people to keep seeing you and to keep seeing people like you doing what you do. In the Senate, in the Congress, as a congressman, you know how big that is for young people to aspire? If they don't know it exists, then unfortunately they can't aspire to be that. So we definitely got to get you that OSG gear, because ain't nothing doper than a congressman with an OSG hoodie and hat and everything else. But I definitely thank you so much, Congressman, for coming through. I know that you have a few other things you got to do, and I know you're always welcome here to join us. In any Thursday we get together, or if you just simply say, Dennis, get the crew together, let's talk. I appreciate that.
And I appreciate the OSG network and all that the educators do. I, like Dane, didn't have the best experience in high school, but to see educators who really care about our community, it means so much. So thank you all, and thank you, Dane, for the eternal friendship and brotherhood. And I'll hit you up, Brother Dennis. Thank you all.
Brother, take care.
I'm gonna meet you on the other Zoom.
Congressman, before you go, Congressman, I'm gonna say this to you. I'm looking at your office, and I see that guy in Nancy Pelosi's office. Your office is much bigger than Nancy Pelosi's office. I just want to let you know that.
Well, that's not her day-to-day office. She has like 3 different offices. That's like a smaller office in the Capitol, but she's hardly there.
I was like, wow.
Look, I told them I wanted yellow. They got a highlighter. I think Damon and they call this pop art. But I got to paint this. This is kind of this little popping for me, man. You know, so
Dame got you. He'll style that out.
Yeah,
let me fix your office. I got you.
I already know.
All right, y'all. Take care. All right, Dave.
I'm gonna jump off.
Action.
Love OSG. Sorry for interrupting, but you guys are great. I always want everybody to talk to y'all. I love what y'all talking about today.
If you want another awesome video in our Black Excellence series, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.